With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. And I am your host for tonight, Fahima Mohammed, also a certified relationship and couples coach. I'm really excited for the conversation tonight, and I want to welcome all of you who are streaming across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, as well as live on Sky Channel 752. Now, the discussion tonight is not just with myself and my guests. You can most definitely join in the conversation, which I would love to hear your voices. And you can do so by calling live at the studio directly to speak. The number is at the bottom of your screen and will remain. And the number is 01924 231-083. Do not forget that standard network rates do apply, so please do ask the bill payer's permission. However, if you want to call for free and you can actually send a message anonymously, you are more than welcome to do so as well with our free WhatsApp service. And that number is 07950-797-017. I really am excited for the lineup of shows and guests that we have. And of course, without further ado, I would love to introduce our topic, which is for tonight, how to prepare for marriage mentally as well as emotionally. And to join me in the discussion tonight, I have my guest, Naima Mohamed. Assalamu alaikum, Naima.
Wa alaikum assalam, Fahima. How are you?
I am so delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time. So,
it's my pleasure.
We are going to be talking today with regards to preparing for marriage. And we're not just saying that like, let's get the dress, let's get the venue, let's sort out, the house. We're talking a little bit deeper tonight. So before we start the conversation, can you give us a little bit of introduction to yourself for our audience tonight?
So I'm Naima Mohamed. I'm a life coach and therapist, and I work with professional women to help them uproot overthinking and anxiety. And so I work with women predominantly, but having said that, I see a lot of sort of marital issues that are going on in the relationship. And so I have a real insight into what isn't working in our communities at the moment. So I think this is a discussion that we really need to have, and I think it's a really important topic.
Amazing. That's so interesting. A lot of us don't realize that we have that extra sense of having life coaches and therapists like yourself, not just for problems in the future when you are struggling, but actually this is also for the beginning of your journey, which is why we are here tonight to discuss this. Now, when it comes to preparing for marriage mentally and emotionally, Naima, could you tell me, what does that even mean?
Well, it means looking a little bit deeper into, the sort of life that you want to have with this person. Presumably, when we get married, we want it to be a lifelong union. And we know the divorce rate is really high at the moment in our communities, but just in the world in general. And so it's about going into marriage, being prepared and having worked on yourself as a person so that you are able to live with somebody else in a harmonious way and actually establish a healthy relationship between yourselves.
Definitely. That is so true. We have so many issues in our community today, and the divorce rate is extremely high, unfortunately. And I know that here, even on the, in our platforms, we have a lot of people coming to us with regards to guidance and advice, and we try our best. But obviously, we have guests like yourself to go into more strategies and techniques. Now, what would be the first step if somebody is entering into marriage? I mean, does it depend on their age, their stage, if they've come out of a relationship before, if they're fairly new, first time, what are the kind of things, if you are entering into a relationship, that you need to to consider when you are getting married? What would be the first thing that you would tell an individual that has come to you to say, I am ready for marriage? Now, you know, I've got the venue, I've got exactly in my mind how I'm going to look, and, you know, even my partner, you know, he and she is, you know, ticks all the boxes. They have a degree, maybe they've got, you know, the house. Those things are usually what we discuss. Is that enough, Naima?
No, actually, that pretty much really does not matter. You're going to live in a house, right? But that house isn't going to give you harmony. And so I think we look for the wrong things, right? We have a checklist about really superficial things. And obviously there's a discussion to be had, but I think we need to remember that you can build together. And so I want to put that out there, that these things are, you know, these are the sort of the trappings of getting married. But at the end of the day, you know, you get married, everybody leaves, you've had your party, and then you've got a lifetime ahead of you. And so what I would say is that actually, while that's a consideration, it isn't the main consideration. And actually what you need to look at is, you know, where are you as a person? How mature are you? How much personal development have you done? How well do you know yourself? Because entering into a relationship means that actually what you're going to do is you're going to take two very different people who've probably lived in two very different families, because it doesn't matter how, you know, whether you're from the same culture or you've even grown up in the same area, you're still going to be very different. And so you're going to take these two very different people, mesh them together and build a whole new family. And actually it takes a lot of emotional maturity and self-knowledge to be able to do that successfully.
Oh, most definitely. I loved everything that you said there. That is so true. A lot of the times we are talking about, you know, things that we shouldn't ignore, but these are very surface things that we do come up with. But when we talk about, you know, marriage, trying to understand it mentally and emotionally, I loved what you said when it came to knowing yourself, because we're always concentrating on the other. So when it comes to knowing yourself, what kind of things would you tell an individual that they need to understand about themselves first to be prepared mentally and emotionally? What would be some of the strategies and some of the techniques that you would give an individual to sort of, you know, go through this motion?
And so one of the things that I always advise people to do, even if they're not, you know, looking to get married, is that knowing yourself is so important. And so things like actually, you know, finding out and working out what your values are, right? Because your values are your long-standing beliefs, and they effectively sort of affect and impact the way that you live and the way that you show up and how you expect other people to be. So when we have specific values, like say if we have a value, you know, that we believe in kindness or family, and we find that somebody else has those values, but it's a little bit lower down, then it might lead to sort of disagreement. So you really need to know, because part of getting married is about finding compatibility, which doesn't sound exciting, right? We're not there, you know, we're thinking about all the exciting things like buying your dress and where you're going to go on your honeymoon, but actually compatibility is so important, because it makes that whole sort of journey of being married so much easier if you have similarities with this person. Right. And also really understanding your boundaries.
Definitely, definitely. That is so true. I mean, it's really important that you address that with regards to, you know, compatibility. Obviously, when we are meeting somebody for the first time, we're going to show up in a particular way, right? We're going to project our best self. We're going to say what, you know, they want to hear. We're going to say what sounds amazing and great. Now, how important it is to have those difficult conversations, those uncomfortable conversations. And what are those uncomfortable conversations that's actually going to lead you to really get to know the true self, and even yourself in that moment, as to how you're going to respond, as well as the other person's response. What are these kind of conversations that you should be having to assess, you know, the kind of compatibility?
Yeah. So, you know, as I guess we're told, you know, we should always put our best foot forward, and we should, right? Because it's about social expectations and knowing how to behave and emotional intelligence. But I would actually say that with the person that you are considering, that might not be the best route to go down. You actually want to be as honest as possible, right? You want to give them a flavor of who they're going to be living with, ideally for the rest of their lives. So, you know, if you're a terrible cook, it just needs to be said, right? If your main ambition is to travel the world, they need to know that, because if they're an absolute homebody, then you're going to have struggles down the line. So you really need to have these difficult conversations in a way which is not judgmental, not critical, but all you're doing is presenting yourself. So, I'm such and such. I come from, I don't know, 5 sisters, I live with, this is my family, this is what I'm used to, I love traveling, I want a pet cat. Like, these things might not sound like they're a big deal, but if you really want a pet cat and your partner is anti that, or if your partner's expecting, gourmet meals every day, but actually you're, pouring things out of jars because that's your cooking style, then these things are going to cause friction down the line. And so it's so important. I mean, one of the things that I read the other day was that one of the, people they get married on a wing and a prayer, hoping that everything will be fine because there's emotion and there's attraction, but actually that emotion and that attraction will be overtaken by the annoyance and the things that you'll discover about this person and those pet peeves that will irritate you that you never knew. And so absolute abject honesty, obviously done in a respectful way, but being able to really say, look, this is who I am as a person, this is what you're getting. Is this something you're interested in? Because I think sometimes what we do is we think, right, we'll work it out. This person seems on paper, they seem fine, seems like we're going to get on. They went to the university that my uncle went to, or all these things that actually just don't matter. But you'll get married and find out that, maybe your partner wants, 10 children, and you were like, mate, I only want 1. And so these things will cause friction online, and it's important to be really honest.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I do agree with that. It's so important to sort of, make sure you know yourself and to have those uncomfortable conversations. But Naima, today we have so much expectations that even if we know ourselves and we actually want certain things, if those things are not met to a certain extent, it can cause so much disruption. Sometimes it can actually break an amazing relationship that would actually work out. So do you think, especially in this generation, that we do find the expectation is not necessarily that realistic? And how do we sort of come to a foundation and a ground that we can actually go there? Well, I love this conversation so far, and I have so many more questions for you, Naima, and I'm sure that, we're going to get some more questions coming in as well, but we are going to be shortly going into a break, and please do stay with us. We'd love to hear your voices, and I've got more questions for Naima as well. So inshallah, we will be back in a few moments to take more questions, and hopefully we will hear some of your voices as well. I really appreciate you tuning in so far, but we will get you in the next side of the show in the next few minutes. I hope you have an amazing break. Have a cup of tea, and we'll see you shortly. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. And thank you so much for joining and tuning in back again after the break. I hope you have your water, your tea ready for another hot topic to continue with this discussion. But before we do that, we do have a caller online. I'd like to welcome you. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on British Muslim TV.
Hello.
Hi. What would you like to say?
Basically, well, this is a bit, I'm not ready to remarry. I've got 2 divorces, and I feel like all of society is putting pressure on me, and everyone's putting pressure on me to remarry. And unfortunately, I've got 2 divorces, and it's like, I myself, I don't want to go down a religious argument. I know there is a religious argument to remarry, but my first marriage was a forced one. Second was stupidity. And basically, I've had 2 guys marry me for the sake of a passport. And when my second divorce happened, I thought, right, that's it, my life's over. And I'm very happy being a single woman, but it's like everywhere I go, it's like I'm society's problem, I'm the world's problem. And people have a go at my mum because she's got this single daughter, and people give me abuse, and people give my mum abuse, and I haven't murdered anybody. I'm just a divorced woman, and my mother, I haven't committed any crimes. Through no fault of mine, 2 guys married me for a passport, and people give my mum abuse, and people give me abuse because I'm a divorced woman, and it's like, I've not done anything wrong.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Did you have a question specifically, or was that a comment really regarding?
How do I tell people to just basically leave me and my mother alone?
I think you just did. And you did so on British Muslim TV. And I hear you clearly. And I really do appreciate you calling in and sharing your story. Thank you so much. Naima, how would you respond to that with the pressures of, the singles out there, whether or not they're divorced or never been married before, and especially with this amazing caller that's just called in? Thank you so much. I really appreciate your story and you sharing it with us tonight. It's really, really horrible to hear some of the tragedy that's going around with singles. So what was your response to this caller, firstly?
Wow, subhanAllah. Firstly, it's appalling because, the sister is right. Divorce is not a crime, right? It doesn't make you a bad person. There's a lot of social stigma about, oh my God, I have a divorced daughter or I'm a divorcee. And actually what really matters is the way that Allah sees us, and there is no stigma in religion, right? And so Allah doesn't love you any less because you've been divorced. It makes no difference to your akhirah. And so I think once you've experienced, one divorce is traumatic. It doesn't matter whether it's amicable or not. We know this, right? And so 2 will have left wounds and scars. And what I would say to the sister who called is really seek out help to really do the healing. And then when you've done the healing down the road, you might be interested in somebody else. And actually you might not. And either way, whatever decision you make is fine, but really look after yourself. There will be some healing that needs to take place.
Absolutely. That is amazing, brilliant advice there to, continue with your healing process. Do seek professional advice through this. People will say what they need to say, but the stronger you are as a person, inshallah, you will actually have better sort of like ways of dealing with it. I just want to also remind the viewers that if you are triggered by anything that is being said tonight, there is a support that we have here on British Muslim TV, and if you want to be in touch, please do so on BritishMuslim.tv/support. It's really important that you do have this information. If you do need, please do take advantage of that. Thank you so much for your call again. And you know what, it's given me another question, which I actually wasn't going to ask before. But, when we come through the pressures today, it's just really amazing that how individuals grow and develop through, sort of trauma, sort of, tragedy, sort of like, things that happen to us to challenge us. So please just always remember that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us in many, many ways. But do seek the kind of advice that you do require for this. Thank you so much. I do appreciate, the sort of comments and everyone that's actually participating today. We really do appreciate that. That's what it's all about, is here for you. The show is for you. Before we actually went to the break, Naima, I was basically talking about with regards to the sort of premarital courses. Do you think that, that's something that we need to maybe promote a little bit more? Because a lot of us, we're still not in our communities used to, seeking some sort of professional help. And when we do, we always seek it when we need it, when it's at the really extreme, spectrum and detrimental stages, when actually you should be seeking something like coaching at the very beginning so that you can actually be prepared a little bit more. And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think it's absolutely outrageous that we can just walk into a masjid, get married, and there's no support and nobody checks on you to see if you're ready. I think that premarital counselling should just be a part and parcel of the whole getting married process, and that it should be something that is standard in every venue and every masjid that allows that to take place. Because what we're doing is we don't prepare our children for marriage, but we encourage it, and we tell them it's half of their deen, go fulfill this huge part of your life, but we've given them no support in doing it. And so it's almost as if we're just sort of pushing them into the deep end of the swimming pool and saying, okay, good luck. And I think it's awful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think also not very many people understand, that counseling, for example, therapy, life coaching, they are very different. And when it comes to this, you need to do your research. You need to understand that there are definitely professionals out there that can help you through the stages in your life where it's really, really important. We do have a couple of comments coming through, actually, which is amazing. And I love to read them out. We have them streaming on WhatsApp and on Facebook. And, we have another caller as well, I think. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Hi, you're live on British Muslim TV. What would you like to say?
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Just to say that I'm listening, and there's so many gems that you guys are covering. It's really interesting discussion to be listening to you both. So thank you very much for that. There's so many things I actually wanted to pick up on, but actually I do want to pick up on the bit about expectations you were talking about before. So my question is that at what point do you start to, or does one amend, change, modify their expectations to meet somebody? Because like you said, you are two different people coming in with different expectations. How do you compromise then on that?
Very good question. Thank you so much for your call. And inshallah, we'll put that through to you first, Naima. What was your thoughts on managing your expectations and, knowing when to sort of give in and, hopefully not losing so much of your boundaries?
I think the first thing about expectations is understanding that, our expectations live in our head, and that's part of our reality, but they're not universal truths. Right. And so sometimes we'll meet someone and we'll expect that they will behave in a certain way because that's the way our family's behaved or our inner circle has behaved. And when they don't, then we think there's something wrong with them. But actually, they just view the world from a different lens. And so it's understanding that actually, for most things, obviously this doesn't exclude, this excludes abuse and anything of that nature. But in general, most people see the world through their own lens, and when you're bringing two lives together, it's about finding that common ground. And sometimes, somebody won't be that bothered and is happy to just forgo because it's not that big a deal. It's not one of their values, right? And so it doesn't hold that much stock for them.
Definitely. That's so true. I think, I would like to add to that as well. I think it's really important that we understand when it comes to maybe expectations, maybe we cannot maybe compromise much on our values, right? Because, when it comes to trustworthiness, when it comes to honesty, when it comes to commitment, when it comes to things like that, which we kind of put to one side, but those are the things that maybe we cannot compromise on. But things like, your bank balance, what kind of how many children you're going to have in the future, even that, that sometimes can be compromised or not. But that's what I'm saying. When we started off at the beginning with these uncomfortable conversations, it's really important that we do understand that, who you are. And there's certain things that you will compromise in and certain things that you're not willing to budge on. But how important is that in your life? And that's going to make or break a relationship. So yeah, thank you so much for that question. That actually did remind me as to what I was going to ask. So thank you for that. You really have pushed this conversation into an area which is amazing. And I love all your comments. I love all your calls so far, and keep coming through because this is amazing. Thank you so much. I also want to ask you, Naima, when it comes to knowing yourself, there are some, boundaries, obviously. Knowing that, at the end of the day, we have, these kind of discussions that we may talk to ourselves, right, when it comes to knowing yourself. But at the same time, we need to sort of understand that we need to have a bit of a support system, okay? So how important it is that when we have families from a different generation sometimes that don't understand what we're going through, how would you navigate through that, Naima?
Yeah, I think, again, the root here is that knowing yourself, because sometimes you will be in disagreement with your parents, right? And maybe sometimes you'll find someone who your parents don't necessarily approve of in terms of the deen. This person is perfectly fine. And so you do need to have a support system that sort of isn't just people in your family. Obviously, we all have friends and we have wider circles. And even having somebody like a life coach to really help you navigate that, because sometimes, you know, having your boundaries and having your values means that you ruffle feathers and that you're in disagreement with other people. And to be able to stand in your truth really means understanding yourself and having that self-trust to know, actually, no, I'm right, and this is what I want to do, and this is important to me. And I think it's as important, you know, in saying yes to somebody that you're going to say, yes, I'm going to marry them, to saying, no, actually, I'm not, because everybody might be saying this person's perfect for you, you know, look at his bank balance, his car, and, you know, all those things that actually really don't matter, but you can see red flags in him that you, or her, right? Because it can be either, but you can see red flags in the other person, and that makes you think, I can't imagine, you know, 60, 70 years with this person. And so sometimes you do have to go against that current. So really having that trust in yourself really comes from knowing yourself and who you are and what you need to thrive.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. We will be going again into another short break, and inshallah we will be back soon to have more questions for you, Naima, and we hopefully also would like to have more callers and more sort of like messages that are streaming through. Again, I want to welcome all of you that are streaming from everywhere. It's exciting that you all are part of this conversation. That's what makes it even more exciting for all of us to even do this show, and to also, inshallah, for you to come back and join us after the break. And we hope that you do stay tuned in, and we'll see you soon in a few moments. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. We'll see you shortly.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We're here watching Single Muslim Live on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm just here to be so excited to hear all your comments and questions so far, and I hope that you do continue with it. We are taking calls. Please do send in your messages. I'm going to read a few out to you as we go along. We have a few WhatsApp messages coming through as well, saying that that basically they actually do agree with Naima with regards to marriage and, you know, working with your partner every day. And inshallah, the divorce rate does go down, because obviously these kind of conversations are really vital. It is obviously, you know, preparing you for marriage, but these kind of, you know, tips and strategies can still be there for you while you're even in a relationship. So please do make sure that hopefully, you know, these kind of things that, you know, we're addressing is something that you can actually contribute to. And if there's anything deeper that you want to ask, please do so. Naima, we do have basically a few more questions for you, but we have someone asking a dating question, saying, what is a good way to approach a lady in real life? For example, if she's Muslim, wearing hijab, someone I don't know, should I give her a compliment first? Should I ask for her number? You know, any advice would be appreciated. This is a really honest question, and I love it, because
I love that.
Yeah, I really love that. And thank you so much for that question, by the way. So what would be your thoughts on that with regards to approaching someone that you don't know? And, you know, you obviously respect this person. You don't want to come across in a particular way. So how would you advise that?
Okay, so it's a really difficult one, right? Because I think women are wary of anybody who approaches us when we're in a place where we might feel vulnerable. So if, you know, she's just walking down the road or she's coming out of a building and you approach her, you know, the female instinct is, oh my God, who is this person? And am I in danger, right? And so it's really difficult in that setting if she's not with people and so she feels safe. If she's with a group of friends, I think it's very different, right? And I can imagine that for the man, it's really daunting if she's with a group of friends. It would be easier if she was on her own. But when a woman's on her own, there is always that feeling of, am I in danger? So you just really have to be aware of that. How do you go about it? It really depends. I think just, being incredibly honest, letting this person know that you are serious, that you're not just messing about. You would like to get to know this person. Maybe, you'd like to meet her with her family or friends or something that makes her think, actually, he's serious and I'm not in danger.
Yeah, no, it is a very tough question, and it's an honest answer, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it really depends on the scenario. A lot of people, if they're approached in that way as well, they will take it like as if it's not something that's serious. So, I do wish you luck on that. I also hope that the caller that called earlier, that you are okay. We do wish you that, you stay strong. There are a lot of haters out there. There are a lot of people that's going to put you down, but hopefully, inshallah, you find someone amazing when you're ready. And, if it's meant to be, it will be. We do have another question for you, Naima. And basically, this is for both of us. Okay. Would you prefer your future spouse to save themselves for marriage? I'm currently saving myself for marriage for my future wife, whoever she may be, basically. I'm guessing we're talking about intimacy here, but it could be obviously anything else. What would you sort of reflect on that question when it comes to saving yourself for your future spouse? What's your answer to that?
So from a Deen perspective, there isn't a choice, really. I think, what you want is what you should be willing to wait for. So if you want a woman who hasn't been with anybody else, then as a man, you should also be a man who hasn't been with anybody else, right? It's about being able to give what you want to receive.
Yeah, it's another one which is quite tricky. And of course, our faith has all the answers and all the guidelines. And as humans, we are obviously finding it very strong at different stages in life. But there's many things that you can do, inshallah, that to keep you strong, to keep you, there in your deen, in the right path, with the guidance that you require. And it is a struggle. It is a challenge to be waiting for your perfect spouse. And in that waiting period, I think that's why we're having this conversation today, because if you take time out to work on yourself, to realize that your mental well-being and your emotional well-being can overtake the kind of physical aspects of things as well. And when you sort of divert in that direction, it's really important. We do have another caller online. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, assalamu alaikum.
Welcome. You're live on British Muslim TV. What would you like to say?
Thank you. I just want to say you guys are doing an awesome job, so keep it up. My question for Naima is, how long do you think is long enough to get to know someone before getting married? Yeah, that's it.
Lovely question. Thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So how long is long enough? I love that question. I love it.
Yeah. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule, in all honesty. I think it'd be hard pressed to find sort of an answer in the literature. But what I would say is, long enough for you to be sure and to have really got to know that person well, to have had those honest and uncomfortable conversations, to have built a picture of who that person is and how you're going to live with each other, and actually what your life will look like.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess you got to put them, keep them on their toes, put them in different scenarios, give them questions that's going to test them, whatever it may be. It could be that as well. It is a very, very good question. It's a difficult one too. Like you said, it's very hard to assess these kinds of things. But the more you know yourself, the more you understand your boundaries and your limits and how does the other person respond to your questions. And it's not just questions. It's also understanding, the kind of things that they put themselves into. If they are in different scenarios, how do they respond and react? How are they with their friends, with their family members? That says a lot. A lot of us think that, they're going to treat us right. They're not going to treat, even if they're not that great with their family members. But actually that says a lot about an individual. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I think it's a really good one to actually analyze, because a lot of times we sort of dismiss the red flags at the very beginning and we think, because, they're for us and that's it. But how important it is that, you have individuals nowadays that even know how to treat other individuals individuals, not just you, because obviously that honeymoon period starts from the very first time that you meet them. So how would you, sort of assess this when it comes to that, when it comes to dealing with, looking at the other person and how they treat the other one?
Yes, it's what it's going to give you is a lot of data and a lot of feedback to analyze. And so for me, and from the literature, you don't want to just meet one person once, have a conversation with them in that sort of really artificial setting in somebody's living room where you have tea and think this is, I've asked all the questions I need to ask, I've made a good assessment. You want to see them with different people, because the way that they treat different people or their expectations of different people, if they're talking badly about people, if they're name calling people, if they're pushing other people's boundaries, if they're not respecting other people's boundaries, this is all information that you're going to be able to use. And so it's incredibly important, I think, that you see people in different areas of their lives as much as is possible.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, it is such, a testing time. I mean, even now that we're kind of coming out of lockdown, we're still under a lot of restrictions. I think a lot of us has changed even our minds and perspective when it comes to relationships. A lot of expectations that we had before may have differed. On one hand, that is a good thing. But on the other hand, we might be also selling ourselves a little bit short on certain things. Like I said, there's certain things that you don't compromise on when it comes to your values. You have to know how to prioritize what is that pyramid and what's on top of that pyramid, as to what are the things that you need to really consider when it comes to entering into a relationship with somebody else. When it comes to I obviously mentioned the pyramid, what are the main things that you think from bottom up or top down that you would look at the other person to analyze that's important when it comes to, for example, maybe their characteristics, their virtues? I mean, it is important as well, obviously their job, their sort of like, studies. A lot of people do complain that maybe the expectation's too high on certain individuals. But do you think it is really high nowadays to sort of say, you know what, we need someone who's actually going to have a certain amount of money. We need someone who's going to have a certain amount of education behind them, because that does also bring along some sort of compatibility. What is, your, sort of like idea on that?
Yeah, so I think what you're looking for is compatibility, and compatibility really comes from your life experiences. And so if you have time, has gone down that career path, then you are going to be more compatible with somebody who is along that similar path, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't consider somebody who isn't along that path, because essentially, we know the reality of marriage is that actually you live with the person. And actually, as long as that person is, somebody who you can admire, respect, and really call a friend, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a lifelong friend. If you can get that in a person, then the rest sort of really it sort of drops away, because that is the most important thing. And I think sometimes, parents have this problem where they're looking for specifics. They're looking for, real specific checklists. And sometimes what we do is we really pigeonhole people, right?
You touched on a very important point there, and parents, and I'm going to come back to you on that one, because I have another question for you. And that is, hello, I am, it's an anonymous caller, obviously, but they want to ask a question with regards to their fiance, and both of them are full-time working, but now he wants her to stay at home and be like, housewife. She's not sure what she can do about that. Any advice on that? I mean, that is quite a tricky situation as well.
It is a tricky situation, but again, it comes from that really knowing yourself and having a vision for your life. So, you can be a housewife and be really happy. You can be a person who has a job and be really happy. Different things for different people. But what is it that she wants? What is it that feels right for her? When she thinks about herself 5 years down the line, who is the woman that she sees in her mind's eye? Is she a housewife? Is she working? What is she pursuing? So it's we can't answer that question because we don't know her intimately, but she can answer that question for herself by looking at, I would say, close your eyes, really think about the woman that you want to be in 5 years' time, 3 years' time. What is she doing? How can she see herself? And if she can't see herself as a woman who is going to be a housewife, then that's a difficult conversation. Like we said, that really needs to be had, because that might be one of her boundaries. One of her boundaries might be, well, actually, I want to work. And that's who I am, and that's what I'm bringing to the table. And that might then mean that things don't work out, or it might mean that actually he then realizes that is really important to her and is willing to then.
Definitely. Well, hopefully we will be back with another episode, and shortly after this break, we'll continue with the conversation. Inshallah, see you soon.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I got so carried away with the last conversation and I'm really enjoying it, and I really appreciate all your messages, your calls, and it's really making it even more exciting for me today, and I hope it's the same for you. We were talking about another message which I want to continue with regards to the fiance basically wanting to have a wife that stays at home. And I think what you raised was really important with regards to knowing yourself and the boundaries. But I think, it's really important to have these questions with regards to maybe a lot of the times, who's asking for these kind of conditions. There's a lot of maybe thought and fear and perspective behind it. So instead of just responding and reacting in a particular way, it's more to ask deeper questions as to why would you want me to stay at home? Because maybe, for example, you might think that, I'm going to not have any of the other responsibilities that you feel that's going to be there. But if you can maybe convince that, you can be part of, being a wife, being, a mother, for example, in the future, as well as, working, because nowadays women are doing it all, they're kind of doing it, and not everybody can see that, so maybe some more reassurance, ask deeper questions as to the reasons behind it. So hopefully you can get to the crux of it, because I think we don't want to have situations where people are like, well, I know myself, this is my boundary. That's the other thing. As much as we want to sort of like be real about it, we want to also have wholesome conversations to bring out, some reasonable ways of living. Because that's the other thing that I was trying to ask before the break, was that as much as we want to know ourselves and we have our boundaries, and we do need to also understand, that there should be a bit of compromise as we grow in a relationship. We also develop, we change. Even what we said at the beginning, it changes over time. So we need to be quite open-minded. Oh, we do have another caller online. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Fahima, it is so good to have you back.
Thank you.
We've really missed you. I was actually flicking through the channels, and I just come across your lovely face on TV, which, we're quite pleased to have. But yeah, it's really good to have you there. And the topic you've got today is really amazing, actually. It's like, I think that a lot of people think a marriage is like, as you were discussing earlier on about being, the perfect house, the dress and everything. That's all fine. That's good. But a house, everybody stays in the house, but it's not a home, what you can make of it. So if you know what I mean, it's like having a balance of both things. And I think there has to be, first and foremost, there has to be a mutual sort of, compatibility with each other. Because if you don't have that, you can have everything and it's not going to work. So each person in, the whole commitment has to know exactly and understand the other side. So I just thought I'd just give a little bit of, from my experience. And I think Maybe some people will agree and some people will not. But really, I think it's total, compatibility. That's what it really comes down to, and the understanding.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I love, what you've said. You've kind of echoed everything that we've been saying so far. I really appreciate your lovely comment about me. And I really love to be back here today. That's what's really it's all about, is to serve all of you people that are watching. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that it's made a difference as well to so many that are listening today.
You're not going to disappear again on us.
No, I won't. I'm here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, you call in again. I really would love to hear from you again as well. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, what a lovely caller. It's so amazing to have amazing, beautiful people to speak. And this is what it's all about. I really, really enjoy being here. And inshallah, we only hope to serve. That's what it's about. It's so important that we just want to make sure that we make it easier for individuals that are seeking this really special occasion. And we just care to make it easier for you. And having you today, Naima, is such a blessing as well. I love everything you've said, and it's really, really vital that we listen. So any more questions? We still have a few more minutes left. It's not very long to go, but you want to catch Naima and make sure that you have any more questions for her, please do call in. Again, thank you so much for all the WhatsApp messages so far. But I just want to also say that we have such an amazing show tonight. What would be something that you would like to sort of, give some final thoughts with regards to, preparing yourself mentally and emotionally? So that, what kind of takeaway do you think? I mean, we are going to be continuing the conversation after the adhan, but we want to sort of highlight what we've spoken so far so that people have an idea with regards to more of the techniques so that we can have, better relationships. And this is what it's about, is that building those bridges. So how would you sort of build strong relationships when it comes to strong relationships? What is your take on, something that's strong? What makes two people that get together that have completely no idea at the beginning of who they are? Yes. What can be that bond, that glue, that they can search for?
Yeah, I mean, we know, the literature says there's three things that really will keep people together, and that's developing a friendship. Because, you want somebody to live with who is going to be a friend, admiration and respect. And what sort of the downfall of most relationships is things that damage those three things. So things like criticism, things like contempt, things like defensiveness. I'm
sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off then. We will be back because we will be going back to the adhan. Inshallah, we will see you after the adhan. Please do stay tuned and we will see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm absolutely loving the show today, and it is the final part of it. So please do join in if you want to. The numbers at the bottom of your screen, your screen, in order to call us live in the studio or to WhatsApp us, privately, anonymously. We really appreciate that. We've had so much engagement so far, and it's been absolutely amazing. And this is what it's about. We can only help you if you actually interact with us, and we can support you even further. And as we were talking before the break, we were talking about how important it is to create that bond and that glue. As much as we have these expectations and we have all these boxes that we need ticking, that is wonderful. But to make sure that you find someone, compatibility. When we were talking about that word, I think Naima mentioned it so beautifully when she said about friendship. What more would you like to add to that? Because we did get it cut off slightly when it came to it. So when it comes to friendship, how important is that when it, I mean, at the end of the day, we talk about that a lot, right? Compatibility. But I think, to sort of link it in with friendship, what more how would you know that, that's your friend? Because again, we're saying, we can be really our best selves at the beginning. So how would you know that they actually are your friend when you've just met them and you can be friends for life?
Yeah. And I think a lot of us know, we've been making friends since we were, knee high. And so sometimes you meet people and you just really, you have an affinity for them and you feel like you can see yourself as being a good friend with them. And everybody has their own criteria of what a good friend is to them. And I would say that, that is what you should be looking for. When you look at this person, can you see yourself spending, a whole Saturday, a whole Sunday, just hanging out, having conversations, enjoying breakfast? Because that's essentially this person. You're going to see this person, more than you will any other person for decades and decades if things go well, inshallah. And so you really need to be able to have conversations with this person, really be able to get along with this person, just really feel comfortable. But also it's really important that you admire and respect your partner, because that admiration and respect will keep, and grow the love that's between you. And, we looked at sort of, I think, some of the things that can really damage those things. And it's all about the way we communicate, right? And it actually always comes from a place of fear. So when we're really critical of someone, what we're saying is, I have a need that is unmet and I actually don't know how to meet that need and I don't necessarily know how to express it. But also when we show contempt to people, the person who you marry is like a cover for you, aren't they? They're the most intimate, close person to you. And if you feel like they don't like you, it's devastating. And so being able to communicate how you feel without mocking, without having a sense of superiority, really realizing that this person is with you for a reason and not getting defensive, because a lot of the times when we want to express something and somebody wants to say, I feel this way, or when you do this, it makes me feel this way, we get really defensive. But actually, you have to be able to hear that person and really listen to that person, right? And also things like stonewalling, which happens a lot, where you're just so afraid of what might be said that you just don't say anything at all. And actually, it's the most frustrating thing. And what all of those four will do is they will damage that friendship, that, respect and admiration. And that's pretty much what leads to divorce and the dissolution of a relationship.
Wow. You've blown me away with all your techniques. And you know what? We've come to the end of the show, unfortunately. Thank you so much for being here. You've given us so much insight, so much information. Please do stay in touch with us. Anyone wants to get hold of Naima, please do reach her. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for watching. Thank you so much, everyone, for calling in and being part of the show tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to the next episode and future guests as well as topics. If you want to reach out, please do so anonymously on the WhatsApp. Inshallah, we will be back with another show next week, and we look forward to seeing you then. Have a lovely evening. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.